My husband Marcus surprised me with a beautiful breakfast one Tuesday morning. Everything looked perfect, but something in my heart told me to be careful. I decided to give the food to his assistant instead. 1 hour later, screaming filled our building. I rushed to see what happened and could not believe my eyes. That morning started like any other day. I got to work before everyone else. The bright morning light came through the tall windows and touched my big wooden desk. I sat down ready to check some important papers when my office door opened wide. Marcus walked in holding a fancy pink lunchbox I had never seen before. He was smiling so big, a warm, happy smile I had not seen in many months. He put the lunchbox down on my desk with a soft sound. "Good morning, sweetheart. Happy anniversary number 3. I made something really special just for you today." I stared at him feeling confused and then looked down at the pink box. Marcus, who always said he was too busy with meetings and traveling, had cooked breakfast for his wife all by himself. He opened the lid slowly while talking sweetly. "I noticed you looking tired lately, and I know your job makes you feel stressed. I woke up super early this morning to make your favorite pancakes with lots of butter and syrup. Eat them while they are nice and warm, okay?" A big cloud of steam came up, bringing the smell of sweet pancakes and melted butter into the air. If this had happened 6 months ago, I probably would have cried happy tears from his kind gesture. But right now, in this exact moment, that sweet smell made me feel sick to my stomach. I was secretly carrying a baby for 3 months now, and feeling sick every morning was making my life very hard. Every time I smelled something sweet or too strong, my tummy felt twisted up tight and I wanted to throw up. I held my breath tight, swallowed really hard, and made myself smile big. "Thank you so much, Marcus. That is very thoughtful of you. But I actually ate some cereal at home already. My belly is completely full right now." Marcus looked surprised for just a second. His smile froze on his face before he quickly went back to looking normal again. He pushed the pink box closer to me and kept talking patiently. "Cereal. That is basically nothing. Eat just a little bit of this for strength and energy. I spent my whole morning making these special pancakes just for you. Please do not say no to me." His words sounded nice and gentle, but they felt heavy, like he was pushing me to eat. I stared into his eyes trying to find something real and honest, but I only saw him waiting and watching me carefully. Right when I was trying to think of how to say no without making him angry, someone knocked on my door and saved me. Jasmine, the new helper who started 3 months ago, walked into my office carrying tall stacks of papers. She wore a very tight black dress that showed her body shape, and her face had lots of makeup that made her look like she was trying to get attention. She put the papers down on my desk, looked at Marcus in a flirty way, and then stared at the pink box while saying in a sweet fake voice, "Oh my, look at the boss being so thoughtful and bringing Miss Maya such a nice breakfast this early in the day. You're so incredibly lucky, Maya. Having a husband who is this perfect and handsome, nobody else can even compare to him." Marcus did not look at her at all and just gave me a few last instructions before walking out of my office. Right then, I got a really good idea. I smiled and gently pushed the pink box toward Jasmine, and my voice hid some angry feelings that probably nobody noticed right then. "I just finished eating and I am absolutely stuffed, and it would be such a waste to throw away Marcus's hard work. Jasmine, did you eat breakfast today? If you did not, please eat this for me. The pancakes Marcus makes taste amazing and they are still steaming hot right now." Jasmine's eyes got really big with surprise, and then her face changed to looking super happy, like she just won a prize. She looked quickly at Marcus walking away to check if he would stop her. When she saw he stayed quiet even though he looked a little bit annoyed, she grabbed the pink box with both hands looking excited. "Well, if you really insist on it, thank you so very much, Maya. I will eat every single bite and not waste even one drop. I am absolutely sure anything the boss cooks must taste like food from heaven." I watched Jasmine leave my office hugging that pink box like it was made of gold, and I felt so relieved that I escaped having to eat it. I tried really hard to focus on my work and turn the pages of money reports, but the numbers danced around on the paper and my head felt dizzy and spinning. A worried feeling grew inside me like heavy dark clouds before a big storm comes. I poured myself a cup of warm water and took tiny sips to make the baby inside me feel calm and peaceful. 3 whole years of hoping and waiting, and finally God was kind to me and gave me this tiny life growing inside. I made a promise to myself that I would take good care of my health and never let bad thoughts hurt my precious baby. About 1 hour later, while I was busy typing on my computer, a loud crash sound came from the main work area, like something really heavy fell hard on the floor. Right after that, a terrible scream ripped through the quiet on our entire floor. It was not a normal scared scream, but one filled with extreme, sharp, horrible pain. My heart squeezed tight inside my chest. A really bad feeling washed over my whole body. I jumped up fast from my chair and ran out of my office as quick as I could. The thing I saw made me freeze completely still like a statue. Jasmine was rolling around on the floor next to her desk in terrible pain. The pink breakfast box was knocked over with all the pancakes scattered everywhere on the ground. The strong smell of the sweet syrup mixed with the awful stench of vomit created a smell so bad I could barely breathe. Jasmine was holding her stomach really tight with both hands. Her pretty face was now twisted up from pain, looking white and drained of all color and life. Her eyes were rolling back in her head and white foam was coming out of her mouth while her whole body shook really hard like she was having a seizure. But what scared me the absolute most was that the bottom part of her tan-colored dress was slowly turning into a dark, deep red color. It was blood. Fresh, bright red blood flowing out freely and soaking into the office carpet underneath her. Workers were running back and forth everywhere looking panicked and scared. Screams and people calling emergency 911 filled up all the air around us. I just stood there frozen with my hands and legs shaking badly and a tight lump stuck in my throat. What in the world was happening right now? Why was Jasmine lying there like this? It was the box of pancakes I had given to her to eat. That thought hit my mind like a lightning bolt and sent ice-cold chills racing down my entire spine. At that exact moment, the big door to the main boss office slammed open hard. Marcus ran out with a look of total panic on his face that I had never ever seen before. He did not run over to help his worker who was dying on the floor, and he did not ask what was wrong with her either. He stopped dead still a few steps away with his eyes opened wide, staring hard at the pool of blood on the floor. I saw very clearly how the look on his face changed from total shock to fear and finally to crazy wild rage. He snapped his head up fast and his stare, sharp like a knife blade, locked right onto me. It was not the look of a husband worried about his wife seeing such a horrible, terrible scene. It was not the look of a boss feeling sorry for his hurt worker either. It was the look of a killer who just realized his target got away from his trap. He walked straight toward me fast and grabbed my arm so hard it made me cry out loud in pain. He spoke through his teeth with his voice shaking from anger he was trying to hold inside. "What did you do? Why is it her lying there and not you?" That weird accusing question felt like a bucket of freezing ice water being poured on my head and waking me up to reality. Why was he asking what I had done wrong? Why was he so disappointed and upset that the person lying on the floor was Jasmine instead of me? I looked deep into Marcus's red bloodshot eyes and felt a terrifying truth starting to show itself to me. I slapped his hand away from my arm, trying really hard to stay calm, and responded with a voice as cold as ice. "What did I do? I only gave her the box of food you cooked with your own hands. What are you thinking about, Marcus? Were you expecting and hoping it would be me on that floor instead?" Marcus froze completely like he just realized he said way too much out loud. He let go of my arm fast, took one step back away from me, and wiped his hand across his face to hide how confused and panicked he felt inside. The sound of ambulance sirens screamed loud from the street down below us, breaking the choking tension hanging in the air between us. The emergency medical people came up the stairs really quickly, put Jasmine on a rolling bed, and rushed her away fast. Marcus ran after them in a hurry, but before getting into the elevator, he turned around to look at me with eyes that still showed hatred and threat toward me. He ordered me in a demanding voice, "You need to come to the hospital right now too. This whole thing happened because of the breakfast you gave to her. Do not even think about trying to dodge taking responsibility for this." I watched the elevator doors close shut and swallowed back my tears that wanted to come out. The husband I used to love and trust with my whole heart had shown himself to be a complete stranger to me now. A cold, calculating, evil man. That box of pancakes, if it had not been for my morning sickness making me feel awful, and if I had not given it away to Jasmine, the person lying in a pool of blood right now would be me. And my tiny precious baby would have died too, sharing my tragic, terrible fate. A horrible, cruel truth was starting to form and take shape in my mind. Marcus did not want to take care of me at all. He wanted to kill our baby growing inside me, or maybe he even wanted to kill me too. I squeezed my fists so hard that my fingernails dug deep into the palms of my hands. Yes, I would go to the hospital, but not because I was afraid of his threats and demands. I would go to see with my own eyes the true, real face of this man I thought I knew. Sitting in the cold, hard plastic chair in the hospital waiting room, I pressed my hands together really tight to stop the shaking running through my entire body. The bright white light overhead reflected and bounced off the shiny tile floor, creating a spooky, lonely feeling all around me. Marcus, the man I had shared my whole life with for 3 years, walked back and forth in front of the emergency room doors like a wild animal trapped in a cage. He ran his hands through his messy hair, bit his fingernails nervously, and sometimes shot me quick sideways looks that mixed suspicion and hate together, but he did not dare come close to talk to me. Looking at his expensive suit now all wrinkled and messy, I felt a deep bitterness spreading through my chest. What was this man so worried about right now? Was he worried about the life of his young mistress? Or was he scared that some dark, terrible secret would come out into the light? Finally, the emergency room doors opened wide, breaking the awful silence that had filled the air. A doctor who looked middle-aged walked out slowly and pulled down his mask, showing a serious, tired face underneath. Marcus lunged at him fast like an arrow being shot, and his voice cracked with tension and worry. "Doctor, how is she doing? Is it very serious?" I stood up slowly from my chair and walked closer, trying really hard to keep my breathing calm and steady. The doctor looked at both of us standing there, and his eyes stayed on Marcus a little bit longer than normal before he started reporting slowly and carefully. The patient suffered from really bad poisoning. Luckily she got here in time and she is now out of danger and will survive. However, the reason for the severe heavy bleeding was because she ate a very large amount of a drug called misoprostol. The medical name made my eyebrows scrunch together in confusion, but for Marcus it seemed to hit him like a devastating blow that knocked the wind out of him. All the color drained completely from his face. His lips moved and trembled, but no sound came out of his mouth. The doctor kept explaining in a firmer, stronger tone of voice. "It is a medicine used to make the uterus contract and squeeze, either to help with giving birth to a baby or to cause an abortion and end a pregnancy. With the extremely high dose we discovered in her stomach contents, it is very clear this is intentional poisoning on purpose, not simple regular food poisoning at all. Following our required rules and protocol, we have already informed the police about this situation." The doctor had barely finished speaking his last word when 2 police officers wearing uniforms appeared at the end of the long hallway. They walked toward us with serious faces and asked us to cooperate and help with their investigation. At that exact moment, Marcus seemed to snap back to reality and wake up from his frozen state. He quickly wiped away drops of sweat from his forehead and tried really hard to get back the calm composure of the big boss he usually showed everyone. He turned around fast and pointed his finger straight at me, with his voice trembling but completely full of accusation. "Officers, you really need to investigate this situation thoroughly and carefully. This morning I prepared a special breakfast for my wife with my own hands. She kept that pink box in her office for a very long time before finally giving it away to Miss Jasmine. I strongly suspect my wife, because of unfounded jealousy she feels, put something dangerous in the food." I looked straight at Marcus, feeling like someone was squeezing my heart tight in their fist. He already had his story ready and prepared ahead of time. If I had eaten those pancakes, I would have lost my precious baby. But since someone else ate them instead, he would try to blame me for the poisoning. I took a really deep breath, looked the older police officer directly in the eyes, and said in a calm, steady voice, "I have absolutely no reason or motive to do something terrible like that. You can check the security cameras in the hallway to see everything that happened. Look for fingerprints on any medicine bottle if you manage to find it. And most importantly, I would really like to know why breakfast my husband claims he made to take care of me had an abortion drug inside it, and why it hurt his assistant so badly." The officer nodded his head while taking notes and writing things down, and then asked the doctor a question that left both of us completely breathless and shocked. "Doctor, what exactly is the specific condition of the victim right now? What consequences and effects has using this drug caused to her body?" The doctor let out a long, tired sigh, and his voice became grave and full of sorrow. "The patient, Jasmine, was 6 weeks pregnant with a baby. Because of the massive, huge dose of the drug which caused extremely violent, strong contractions in her uterus, we deeply regret to inform you that the unborn baby could not survive and has died." The whole world around me seemed to freeze solid and stop moving. I heard Marcus let out a choked, strangled moan from deep in his throat. His legs gave way underneath him, and he collapsed down into one of the waiting room chairs. His face looked completely unhinged and broken, with his eyes wide open, just staring into empty space, seeing nothing. So that was the truth of it all. That young, beautiful assistant was carrying his baby inside her body. And he himself, with his evil, wicked plan that was meant for his own wife, had unknowingly ended the life of his own illegitimate child, whose existence he probably was not even aware of yet. Seeing his pitiful, broken state sitting there, I felt absolutely no satisfaction or happiness, only a wave of disgust rising up in my throat, making me feel sick. The love he had said he felt for me, or the passion he claimed to feel for his mistress, it all meant absolutely nothing when faced with his selfishness and cruelty toward others. After hearing the shocking, terrible information from the doctor, the police officers decided to question and interview Marcus and me separately right there in the hospital building. I was asked to sit down in a quieter corner of the hallway across from the older officer, whose look was sharp and alert but calm and serene. He looked at me without any judgment in his eyes, almost with compassion and understanding, and asked in a kind, gentle voice, "Ma'am, please tell me in detail everything that happened from the exact moment you received the food container until the terrible incident occurred with your coworker. Try to be as precise and accurate as possible. Do not leave anything out, no matter how small or unimportant it might seem to you." I closed my eyes tight and rewound the movie of that terrible morning playing in my head. I told him how Marcus had suddenly appeared with excessive attention and care, something that had completely vanished and disappeared from our marriage in the last 6 months. I told him about the strong, sweet smell of the pancakes that made my nausea and sickness worse. I explained that I only lifted the lid to look inside and closed it right away immediately. I made very clear and emphasized every single word from the moment he left the pink box sitting on my desk until Miss Jasmine walked into my office. I did not move even once from my chair, and I did not open the container again even one time. It stayed always in my sight and completely untouched by my hands. I gave it to Jasmine simply because I could not eat it myself, and she looked enthusiastic and excited about the idea of eating it. On the other side of the hallway, Marcus was being questioned and interviewed by a younger police officer. He kept insisting over and over on how clean his cooking process was. He said with confidence, "I went to the farmer's market myself, got into the kitchen at home, and prepared those pancakes from the crack of dawn this morning. I am a very careful, meticulous person who pays attention to details. I never ever let our housekeeper touch any food meant for my wife. As soon as I completely finished cooking, I put everything in the pink box and brought it directly to the office without it passing through anyone else's hands at any point." Marcus was totally convinced this statement would make him look like a perfect, exemplary husband, while at the same time pointing all blame toward me as the only suspect and the only person who had contact with the container in a closed private room. But in his panic and fear, he had completely forgotten something very fundamental and important. The more he insisted and kept saying he was the only one who prepared absolutely everything, the more he was putting the rope around his own neck if it could be proven the poison was already inside the pancakes from the very beginning before he brought them. When the questioning session took a pause and break, the older officer walked over to his younger colleague who was writing notes about Marcus's statement. They talked together and exchanged a few words in low, quiet voices while casting quick, meaningful glances toward Marcus. Noticing this happening, Marcus became even more nervous and anxious than before. He jumped up from his seat, raising his voice much louder than usual to hide the fear he felt inside. "Investigate this thoroughly and carefully. My wife has been acting very jealous lately. She is not thinking right in the head. Who knows what she is capable of? Maybe she secretly slipped the poison into the food when I left her office for just a moment." I listened to every single one of his cruel, hurtful words. How incredibly painful this felt. The man I used to love with all my heart was now trying by any means possible to put me in prison just to save himself from punishment. I stood up tall, walked over to where they were standing, looked Marcus directly in his face, and asked with surprising calm in my voice, "Marcus, if you truly think it was me who did this, what would be my reason or motive? To kill and hurt your assistant? Or are you deeply afraid they will discover that breakfast was not meant for Jasmine at all, but was actually meant for me?" Marcus jerked and started looking shocked. His eyes moved around nervously and quickly avoiding my direct gaze at him. He stammered and stuttered. What complete nonsense are you talking about right now?" Time passed by with agonizing, painful slowness. Every single minute of waiting for the laboratory test results felt like mental torture. I stayed seated in total silence with my hand resting gently on my belly in an instinctive protective gesture to guard the little being caught in the middle of this terrible hurricane. Finally, a forensic laboratory technician came out holding the test results tight in his hand. He announced in a grave, serious voice, "On the rim and edge of the pink box and on the spoon inside, we found fingerprints belonging to Mrs. Maya and the victim Jasmine, which perfectly matches both of their statements and stories. However, the absolutely crucial important point is that the toxic poisonous substance was completely dissolved into the pancake batter, soaking into every piece and drop of syrup. This proves without doubt the drug was added during the cooking process or immediately after while the batter was still very hot and got stirred in well, not simply sprinkled on top once the container was already closed and sealed." This conclusion was like a bucket of ice-cold water being dumped on Marcus, completely destroying the theory he had tried so hard to build and construct to blame me for everything. If I had added the drug after receiving the pink box in my office, it would not have dissolved so uniformly and evenly throughout everything. Marcus's face changed color, rapidly passing from pale white to an ashy, sick gray. He started talking nonsense and rambling while losing all control. "No, it cannot be true. Surely it was Jasmine herself who took the medicine on her own. That is it exactly. She was pregnant with a baby. She wanted to end the pregnancy and took the pill before eating the breakfast. You have to investigate her personal life. Do not accuse an innocent man like me." I looked at the pathetic, embarrassing scene of my husband falling apart and felt a strange mix of wanting to laugh and feeling pity for him. The man who was once my pride and joy was now showing himself as a coward, completely incapable of facing the consequences of his own terrible actions. I raised my voice, cutting off his wild ravings firmly and sharply. "Marcus, stop kicking and screaming like a child. If Jasmine took the medicine on her own by herself, why was it also found inside the pancakes? Are you seriously going to say she took it and then threw up into the pink box? Does your explanation sound logical and reasonable to anyone?" Marcus spun around really fast with his eyes completely bloodshot and red. "Shut your mouth right now. What do you even know about anything? You hate me with all your heart. You want to completely destroy me, and that is why you set up this whole circus and trap. It was you who did this. You slipped it in secretly when I was not looking in your office." His stubborn refusal to accept reality made even the police officers shake their heads, feeling weary and tired of his lies. The lead officer closed his folder with a snap and looked at Marcus with a look as cold as ice. "Mr. Marcus, your statement and the forensic test results show many contradictions and do not match up. We need you to come with us to the police station to clarify and explain some very important matters. Furthermore, we will request and review the recordings from your car's dashboard camera and the security cameras in your home kitchen to verify and check the preparation process you described to us." Hearing the word cameras mentioned out loud, Marcus jolted and jumped as if he had just received a powerful electric shock. I knew perfectly well we had a camera in our living room that pointed directly at the kitchen area, and his expensive luxury car had a camera recording all his trips and drives. Those would be the pieces of proof and evidence that would not lie or deceive anyone. If he really did add the drug to the pancakes, he absolutely would have left some trace or sign behind that could be found. Marcus's confident gaze started wavering violently back and forth. His initial confidence had vanished and disappeared completely, now replaced by the naked raw fear of a criminal standing before the judge. He knew deep down the trap he had carefully set for his wife was now closing tightly around his own neck instead. I stood up slowly, straightened and smoothed my clothes, and looked at my despicable husband for the very last time before the police took him away. Marcus, you told me once that breakfast was full of your love for me. Now I finally understand that your love actually smells exactly like poison. Luckily and thankfully, fate and destiny wanted our baby not to share the same terrible luck as that other poor innocent baby who died. I left him standing there all alone in the middle of the cold hospital hallway and walked away without looking back even once, silently thanking life for giving me a precious chance to survive and seek justice for myself and for the child I carried safe in my womb. Leaving the hospital behind me, I did not go back home. I took a taxi straight to my office building. The sky above was gray and heavy with dark clouds swirling and twisting like a warning sign of a great storm coming, an exact perfect reflection of my turbulent, chaotic state of mind. Walking into the building lobby, I felt curious stares from people and heard the whispers of all the employees around me. The news of Jasmine's poisoning had spread fast like a dangerous virus through the whole company. Rumors were of all different kinds, but the most malicious mean one was about the jealous boss lady who, after finding out her assistant was pregnant by her husband, had tried to poison her to teach her a painful lesson. Hearing those made-up inventions hurt me like sharp knives stabbing my heart. But I knew deep inside I could not break down and fall apart right now. I had to be strong and stand firm to discover the real truth and clear my good name from these lies. I went directly to my office and closed the door hard, separating myself from all the gossip and talk outside. Shortly after, someone knocked gently and softly on my door. It was Rebecca, my trusted assistant who had been working with me since the very beginning of my career. She walked in with a worried, concerned face but a look full of determination and strength. She placed a small flash drive on my desk and whispered quietly, "Maya, I did exactly what you asked me to do. I pulled and downloaded all the security camera footage from the building and the parking garage for this entire morning. I found something very strange and unusual that you need to see." I plugged the drive into my computer and black and white grainy images appeared on the bright screen. Rebecca pointed to the timestamp at the bottom. "Look carefully. Mr. Marcus's car entered the parking garage at 7:15 in the morning, but he did not get out of the elevator to come up to your office until 8:30. Normally it takes less than 5 minutes to go from the garage up to here. Where was he during that entire hour? What could he have possibly been doing during all that time?" Her question made my blood freeze cold in my veins. An hour completely missing and unaccounted for. More than enough time to carry out any dark, evil plan he had in mind. I looked very closely at the screen, searching desperately for more clues and evidence. Rebecca moved the video forward to a recording from another camera in the basement emergency stairwell area. "Look at this part. Pay very close attention to this person right here." On the screen appeared the shadowy figure of a man wearing a white shirt and a face mask walking in a big hurry. He was carrying a fairly large black garbage bag and was heading secretly and stealthily from the elevator area toward the dumpster section behind the building instead of using the normal trash cans on each floor. "It is definitely Kevin," I said out loud, instantly recognizing his slightly hunched, awkward walk and his characteristic hairstyle that stuck up funny. Kevin was Marcus's personal assistant and also his distant cousin, a man who followed his orders and commands like a faithful, loyal dog. Why would he need to go all the way down to throw garbage away secretly using the emergency stairs at that early hour? And what exactly was inside that mysterious black bag he carried? Was it the empty medicine packaging, used gloves, or other evidence of the crime Marcus desperately wanted to make disappear after preparing his deadly poisonous breakfast during that lost missing hour? Rebecca looked at me with a firm, steady voice. "I strongly suspect there is very important evidence hidden in that garbage bag he carried. I sent someone to check and search the dumpster area, But unfortunately the garbage truck just passed by half an hour ago and took everything. However, I know Kevin is very cautious and careful, but he is also extremely cheap and greedy with money. He does not usually throw important valuable things into the common trash immediately and right away. He often hides them somewhere safe to get rid of them much later. I will send someone I trust to follow him very closely and watch his movements. I nodded agreement and squeezed Rebecca's hand tight. Thank you so very much, Rebecca. Right now at this moment I can only trust you completely. Please be very careful. They are cornered and trapped and could become very dangerous and unpredictable. Rebecca left my office, leaving me completely alone in the big empty space. I looked out the tall window and saw rain starting to fall down hard, hitting and pounding the glass. Marcus's web of lies and his accomplices helping him were starting to show deadly mortal cracks and breaks. That lost missing hour and Kevin's highly suspicious action were the key to completely turning the tables on them. The heavy rain outside showed absolutely no signs of letting up or stopping. Big drops pounded hard on the glass, creating long trailing lines of water like permanent, indelible scars that would never go away. Sitting alone in my office, the light from my computer monitor lit up my tired, exhausted face, but my eyes burned bright with fierce determination and resolve. Rebecca, my smart and incredibly efficient assistant, had just placed a thin folder in front of me on my desk, though its weight and importance felt absolutely immense and heavy. She spoke in a low, quiet voice with a tone full of anger and indignation on my behalf and for my sake. Maya, look at this carefully. I asked a contact and friend in the building administration office to check and investigate something. The luxury apartment where Jasmine lives is not rented by her at all. It is actually in the name of a business services company. I picked up the paper and read it closely. The name DKM Management LLC jumped out at me immediately. It sounded very pompous and important, but I knew it was just an empty shell with nothing inside. The legal representative listed for that company was precisely Kevin, Marcus's assistant and distant cousin. Rebecca continued her detailed analysis while pointing to the attached bank statement she had gathered. The monthly rent payment is $2,500 plus very high association fees, and all of it gets transferred punctually and on time from the account of DKM Management. But the actual funds arriving into that company account come from a slush fund Marcus created under the concept and label of representation expenses for the business. I smiled bitterly, a smile that came from deep in my soul. $2,500 every single month just for rent, not even counting living expenses and shopping and entertainment. Meanwhile, the dress I was wearing right now was 3 years old and worn thin in places. The purse I used every day was a modest cheap brand worth barely $50. Marcus always complained loudly about the company's financial difficulties and problems, constantly asking us to tighten our belts and save money to secure our future together. It turns out the future he was actually worried about was not our family's future, but the luxurious love nest of his young pretty mistress. I turned carefully to the next page and found a photograph taken secretly of Jasmine entering a very elegant, expensive private medical clinic. The photo was from exactly 2 weeks ago. Rebecca explained that she went there for an obstetrics and gynecology checkup appointment. That meant without any doubt Jasmine knew perfectly well she was carrying Marcus's baby inside her body. She was not as innocent and naive as she tried to appear to everyone. She was using that pregnancy as a strategic, powerful card to force Marcus to make a serious decision about their relationship. I looked at Jasmine's young, smooth face in the photograph and felt a chill run down my spine. Behind that sweet, naive appearance hid a calculated, cunning veteran player. She wanted to become the lady of the house in one fell swoop, destroy my happiness completely to build her own castle and kingdom. But she did not count on or expect the man she had chosen as her pillar and support being a cold-blooded evil being willing to cruelly dispose of his own unborn son just to protect his selfish interests and plans. The phone on my desk vibrated suddenly with a loud buzz, breaking the heavy silence in the room. The screen showed my love, a name I had not bothered to change yet and which now sounded terribly sad and ironic. I took a really deep breath and put my hand flat on my chest to calm my racing, pounding heart before I answered the call. On the other end of the line sounded Marcus's deep, familiar voice, But now I only heard complete falseness that turned my stomach and made me feel sick. Baby, where are you right now? I just got released from the police station. I am completely exhausted and drained. They asked me 1,000 different things and questions. My head is pounding and hurts so badly. I held back and contained the rage burning inside me and faked a trembling, worried voice. I am at the office right now. I am feeling so scared, Marcus. Everyone here is whispering and talking about me. I do not dare go home alone. Are you okay? Did the police give you any trouble or problems? Marcus let out a long theatrical sigh on the other end of the line, playing perfectly the role of the wronged, suffering husband. What could they possibly do to me? Someone who has nothing to hide has nothing to fear from anyone. I am just deeply worried about you and your state of mind. I do not want you thinking crazy paranoid things and having it badly affect your health and well-being. Please stay calm there at the office or go to your mother's house to rest safely. Do not listen to any of the rumors people are spreading. I promise I will fix absolutely everything and make it right. Hearing those completely empty words of fake concern, I wanted to scream right in his face that I knew everything about his lies. But reason and logic stopped me from doing that. I needed him to feel confident and secure, to think I was still the naive, trusting little lamb so he would make even more mistakes. I responded softly and gently. Course I trust you completely. Please get some rest now. I will come back home a little later tonight after I finish a couple of pending things I need to take care of. I hung up the phone and stared at the curtain of rain falling behind the tall window. Marcus, you think you are controlling this entire game. You are completely wrong about that. Night fell over the city and everything lit up with vibrant, colorful lights, but that artificial shine could not hide the dark, evil corners of the human heart. I received a text message from the private driver I had sent on a secret mission, informing me that Jasmine's mother, Mama Gloria, had already arrived at the bus station. She had taken the very first bus from her small town in rural Georgia as soon as she heard her precious daughter had suffered a terrible accident. I gave instructions to the driver to take her to a modest but clean hotel near the hospital, and I made very clear not to take her to see her daughter yet because visiting hours were already over for the night. It would be much better for her to rest after the long, exhausting trip. I arrived at the hotel past 9 o'clock at night. As soon as I walked into the lobby, I recognized Mama Gloria immediately. She sat huddled small on a worn sofa, a petite thin figure wearing a simple faded blue dress. She had on worn-out old sneakers, and next to her sat 2 large cloth bags filled completely to the brim. Surely they contained fresh vegetables from her garden, maybe green beans or tomatoes. Humble, simple gifts a poor, loving mother had brought with great effort for her daughter. The image moved my heart deeply, reminding me strongly of my own grandmother who lived down south, just as hard-working and selfless, sacrificing absolutely everything for her family. Seeing me walk toward her, Mama Gloria stood up nervously and anxiously, clasping her hands which were cracked and deeply weathered by years of hard work. I smiled warmly, took her rough hand gently, and said in a kind voice, "You are Jasmine's mother, correct? I am Maya, Jasmine's boss at the company where she works. I knew you were coming here and I wanted to make absolutely sure you were okay, that you had eaten dinner and had a comfortable place to rest tonight." Mama Gloria's tired eyes filled up with tears and her voice, thick and heavy with a strong southern accent, trembled as she spoke. "You are my Jasmine's boss. Lord Jesus, bless my soul. You are very good and kind, child. I do not know what kind of foolishness she must have done to end up in this terrible state. At home back in Georgia, she has always been a very good hard-working girl, you know." I helped her sit back down on the sofa and poured her a glass of cool water. Seeing the pure love and pride shining in her eyes when talking about her daughter, I felt a tight knot form in my stomach. She did not know her good and hard-working daughter lived in a luxury apartment that she, working her entire life, could never even dream of affording. That she used designer bags whose value equaled her mother's entire life fortune. I asked gently and carefully, "Does Miss Jasmine call you often? Does she tell you things about her life here or her work?" Mama Gloria responded with complete sincerity and honesty. "Course she calls me all the time. She says they treat her real good at the company, that the pay is good and fair, and she lives in a free company apartment that is real nice and comfortable. Every single month she sends me $100 for my medicine and medical bills and tells me not to worry about her, that she wants for nothing and has everything she needs. Hearing this broke my heart into pieces. $100 for her poor mother, but willing and happy to spend thousands of dollars on a whim to please her secret lover. How fragile and false was that show of love and duty to her mother? I decided Mama Gloria absolutely had to see the real truth, even though I knew it would be incredibly cruel for her innocent heart. I pretended to look surprised. "Oh, she told you she lived in a company apartment. I thought Jasmine had rented a luxury apartment in the fancy Buckhead neighborhood. That is a very expensive area to live. Rent for just 1 month there equals an entire year of a regular worker's salary. And I see her very often with designer things and expensive items. The other day she was carrying a purse that I heard costs almost $2,000. Mama Gloria froze completely still. Her cloudy eyes opened wide, completely full of confusion and disbelief. "What are you saying to me? $2,000 for a purse? That cannot possibly be true. My girl is very thrifty and careful with money. She hates throwing away even a torn shirt with holes, and she told me clear as day she lived in the company apartment." I patted the back of her weathered hand very gently and lowered my voice to a tone full of careful insinuation. "Surely Jasmine did not want to worry you or make you upset, and that is why she did not tell you the complete truth about her life here. But you can rest easy tonight. Tomorrow I will personally take you to the hospital and you can talk to her directly to clear absolutely everything up and get answers. I just worry that being so young and pretty in a big city full of temptations and bad people, someone evil might take advantage of her innocence and completely ruin her life." My carefully chosen words planted a small seed of doubt deep in that mother's trusting heart. Mama Gloria sat absorbed and lost in thought, staring into empty space while her trembling hands played nervously with the hem of her faded dress. She was starting to slowly realize her little baby girl had become a complete stranger to her, hiding terrible dark secrets from her own mother. I left the hotel with a very heavy heart weighing me down. I did not want to hurt this innocent woman, but she was the most important witness I had, the only person who could wake up Jasmine's conscience and make her see reason. And at the same time, she was the leverage I desperately needed to completely unmask Marcus and reveal his true evil face. In this terrible war, absolutely everyone would get hurt in some way, even the most innocent people who deserved none of this pain. The next morning, just as I was leaving the parking garage to drive to my office, a dark figure suddenly blocked my path forward. I slammed hard on my brakes with my heart jumping into my throat. Looking more closely, I saw it was Kevin standing there. He looked around furtively and nervously, glancing in all directions as if fearing someone would see him talking to me. He tapped gently on my car window, signaling desperately for me to talk to him privately. I rolled down the window just enough to hear what he wanted to say, keeping a safe distance between us. "Mrs. Maya, can I please have just 1 minute? I have something very important Mr. Marcus asked me to hand deliver directly to you." His voice was barely a trembling whisper. I smiled with cold disdain and unlocked the passenger door just enough for him to quickly slip into the seat beside me. In the confined tight space of the car, I smelled a sour unpleasant smell of nervous sweat and stale tobacco smoke coming from him. He was clearly very nervous and scared. He pulled a thin folder from inside his jacket, placed it quickly on my lap, and withdrew his shaking hand as if it had been burned by fire. "What is this?" I asked with a cold voice without even bothering to look at him. "It is an old medical record of Miss Jasmine that Mr. Marcus found this morning while searching." Kevin stammered badly with sweat drops forming on his pale forehead. "Inside here is a receipt for the purchase of medication and a medical report. A patient bought it yesterday at a shady pharmacy in a bad neighborhood. The boss says take this and give it discreetly to the police, saying you found it by pure chance in a drawer of Jasmine's desk. That way Mr. Marcus will be completely free of suspicion and you will not be implicated or blamed either." I took the folder slowly and opened it carefully. Inside was a superficial, poorly written medical report and a crumpled receipt. I held the receipt up to the bright light. The handwriting was a messy scribble specifying the name of the drug misoprostol. The purchase date written was from the previous afternoon, but the most ridiculous obvious thing was that the ink on the receipt looked fresh and new, and the paper was completely pristine without even a single wrinkle or fold. It was completely evident this was a fake invoice made in a desperate hurry the night before to frame someone. Holding the pathetic evidence in my hands, I turned and fixed Kevin with a stare so sharp and penetrating he physically shrank back in his seat. You and Marcus think I am completely stupid and naive. The ink on this receipt has not even dried yet. You are asking me to give this to the police. That is like asking me to confess I falsified evidence myself. Or maybe what you both want is to blame poor Jasmine for buying the drug and trying to commit suicide out of depression. So Marcus walks away completely clean and I take all the blame for knowing about it and not stopping it from happening. Kevin turned deathly pale. His lips trembled uncontrollably without any sound coming out. No, it is not that at all, ma'am. The boss said if you just handed it over quietly, everything would be solved and forgotten. You are his wife. You have to help him now. If something terrible happens to him, the entire company will sink and you will lose absolutely everything you have. He was desperately trying to play the card of fear regarding losing my wealth, assets and high status. But he was completely wrong about me. This wealth and success was earned by the blood, sweat and tears of my parents who built it from nothing. I would rather destroy it completely and start from scratch than leave it in the dirty hands of a murderer. I threw the fake folder back at him hard with a firm, steady voice. Take this garbage and get out of my car right this instant. And tell Marcus if he wants to put on a play and stage a performance, he should hire much more professional, convincing actors. And you, Kevin, you are being an accomplice to a murderer and attempted killer. You better start worrying about your own skin, or you will regret it deeply when you are already locked in jail. Kevin scrambled to gather the folder in a panic-filled hurry, opened the door fast, and ran out like a terrified soul being chased by the devil himself. Watching his pathetic figure disappear behind a concrete support pillar, I knew for certain Marcus was completely desperate now. He was drowning in the thick mud he himself had created, and the more he struggled and fought, the tighter the noose got around his neck. This clumsy, obvious farce would not only fail to save him, but was also further clear proof of the cruelty and moral baseness of a despicable husband and boss. Back in my office, I immediately called Rebecca. The atmosphere in the entire office had become as tense as a military command post in the middle of battle. Rebecca placed her laptop on my desk with her face lit up with the excitement of someone who just discovered buried treasure. Maya, just as you suspected and predicted, I reviewed all of Marcus and Kevin's call logs and records from the last week. There is an unknown number that appears with alarming frequency, especially the night before the terrible incident happened. I investigated deeply and found out who it belongs to. You are not going to believe this. It is Sarah. Sarah. I searched my memory trying to place the name. Rebecca added quickly and eagerly. Sarah was Marcus's classmate back in college. Now she works as a pharmacist and as a sales representative for a big pharmaceutical laboratory. According to some old employees from Human Resources, she had a romantic fling with Marcus way back in the day, but they broke up when he married you. I never imagined they had secretly reconnected. A pharmacist, an ex-girlfriend, and secret calls late at night. All the loose, scattered pieces started fitting together into one complete, clear picture. Marcus could not buy that restricted drug himself for fear of being discovered and caught, so he turned to Sarah for help. Maybe he sweet-talked her with promises of money or rekindled old romantic feelings to convince her to help him. Did you find any proof they actually met in person? I asked with my heart beating 1,000 miles an hour. Rebecca nodded eagerly and her fingers slid quickly across the keyboard. Here it is. I hired a private investigator to pull security footage from the area near Kevin's fake company location. Look at this corner of the screen right here. On the computer monitor appeared a black and white video of somewhat blurry quality, but good enough to clearly recognize the people. A familiar dark car stopped in a discreet hidden corner. Kevin got out and looked around nervously and carefully. Shortly after, a tall woman wearing big sunglasses walked up to him. It was Sarah. She handed Kevin a small package wrapped in brown newspaper. He took it quickly, put it in his pocket in a hurry, and both people separated and left in opposite directions immediately. The date and timestamp on the camera footage corresponded exactly to the afternoon before the poisoning incident happened. A small package wrapped in newspaper. I whispered quietly without taking my eyes off the screen. That is the poison right there. Sarah is the one who provided the weapon to Marcus. I turned to Rebecca with a steady, determined gaze. Rebecca, this is the weakest link in their entire chain. Sarah has an education, a stable good job, and a professional reputation. She might have done this for money or love, but I am absolutely sure she is not a professional criminal. She will be absolutely terrified if she finds out she runs the risk of going to jail for complicity and being an accomplice in attempted murder. Rebecca caught my meaning instantly. You mean we are going to pressure Sarah psychologically and make her crack? I nodded with an icy cold smile. Exactly right. Marcus is desperately trying to blame Jasmine for everything, and it is very likely he also has a backup plan ready to blame Sarah if needed. If everything comes to light, he will say she gave him the drug on her own or tricked him by saying it was a vitamin supplement. We absolutely have to get ahead of him. I will meet with Sarah face to face and show her the dark, terrible future Marcus has prepared for her. Between going to jail for her old flame or testifying to get leniency and a reduced sentence, I trust Sarah is smart enough to know which path to choose. The net was cast wide and the most important prey had been located and identified. I knew the imminent meeting with Sarah would be an intense game of mental chess, but I held all the best cards Marcus could not even imagine existed. The raw and brutal truth was about to come to light, and those who plant the wind will inevitably reap the whirlwind. The next morning the sky was still covered by a thick gray blanket, as if about to unleash another powerful storm over the entire city. I picked up Mama Gloria from the hotel and drove her to the hospital to finally see her daughter. The elderly woman from the country still carried her old red plastic basket filled with farm-fresh eggs and vegetables from her garden. My Jasmine loves eggs from our chickens at home, she told me warmly. She says the city ones smell funny and are not as tasty at all. Listening to her innocent words made my heart squeeze tight. A mother's love is immense and deep like the ocean. But her daughter had traded that pure love for the vanity and luxury of the city. Walking into the hospital room, the intense smell of strong disinfectant made Mama Gloria wrinkle her nose and hesitate nervously before entering. Jasmine had been moved to a regular room. She lay in the white hospital bed looking pale and gaunt like a withered dying leaf. Seeing her mother walk in, her eyes snapped open wide and her dry cracked lips barely managed to say a weak mama. Mama Gloria ran to the bedside, set the basket on the floor, and grabbed her daughter's ice-cold hand while tears ran freely down her wrinkled face. My precious child, how did you end up like this? Why did this terrible thing happen to you? Jasmine turned her head away, avoiding her mother's loving gaze while tears of bitterness rolled down her pale cheeks. But Mama Gloria, with the sharp instinct of a mother who has counted every single penny her whole life, fixed her gaze on the bedside table. There, Jasmine's expensive designer bag rested next to a latest generation smartphone. The harsh contrast between those luxury objects, the old basket on the floor, and her mother's worn shabby clothes created a suffocating heavy atmosphere. Mama Gloria pointed at the purse with a trembling finger and her voice cracked with emotion. That purse. Mrs. Maya told me it cost $2,000. Where did you get the money to buy something like that? With what you earn, you barely make enough to send me a little something each month. How dare you waste money like that on yourself? Jasmine looked terrified and glanced at me and then turned back to her mother, denying everything desperately. It is not true, Mama. Maya is wrong about it. It is a fake knockoff. Cost me $20 at the flea market. Please do not listen to what people say about me. I was standing quietly leaning against the door, observing that clumsy performance in complete silence. I walked slowly toward the bed, put my hand gently on Jasmine's shoulder, and whispered in her ear with a low voice loaded with enough threat to make her freeze in terror. You think Marcus is coming to see you and help you? He is too busy right now trying to prove to the police that you were the one who bought the medicine yourself. Whether this bag is real or fake, you and he know the truth better than anyone else. Stop lying to your mother right now. Jasmine froze, completely looking at me with eyes wide with absolute panic. Fear took over her entirely. She finally understood that I knew absolutely everything, and more importantly, that the man she had trusted with her life was abandoning her like a useless broken object. Mama Gloria, seeing her daughter trembling badly, thought it was from pain and started massaging her cold hands while whispering soft words of comfort. Seeing the heartbreaking scene, I felt no satisfaction at all, only deep, profound sadness. The raw, terrible truth would have to come out sooner or later, and the person who would suffer most would not be the guilty ones but the innocent mother who loved her daughter with her whole heart. I sat in a chair away from them, pretending to look at my phone to give them privacy and space, but in reality I was observing every tiny change in Jasmine's mood. Before sitting down, I deliberately left the file Kevin had given me that morning on the bedside table next to Jasmine's purse. I left it slightly open so a corner of the fake receipt for the drug purchase was clearly visible. I knew Jasmine's curiosity, and above all I knew that in her state of anxiety, any clue related to Marcus would be a burning nail she would grab onto. And that is exactly what happened. As soon as Mama Gloria turned around to pour water, Jasmine looked at the file secretly, grabbed it quickly, and scanned it with wide, frightened eyes. I saw her thin shoulders shake violently upon seeing the receipt with her name written on it. Her face went from pale to wax white. She recognized the handwriting, the name of the drug, and most importantly the dark intention behind that piece of paper. Marcus, the man who had promised her a bright future, was now falsifying evidence to make her the murderer of his own child. Her blind faith collapsed in an instant, leaving behind an abyss of despair. At that moment the door opened and the doctor entered with a nurse. He reviewed the medical chart and looked at Jasmine with compassion. The atmosphere became heavy. The doctor sighed and announced in a grave voice, "The family must prepare themselves. Due to the overdose that caused severe contractions and prolonged hemorrhaging, the uterus has suffered severe damage. We have done everything possible, but her ability to be a mother in the future is practically impossible now." The news fell like a lightning bolt. Mama Gloria collapsed to the floor, crying inconsolably. "Lord Jesus, no. My daughter is so young. Why is heaven so cruel to her?" The old woman's crying was a heartbreaking wail. Jasmine, motionless in bed, stared at the ceiling with empty eyes, not shedding a tear. The pain had exceeded her capacity to feel. No child, no possibility of being a mother, betrayed by her lover. Everything had collapsed at once, destroying her life. I approached to help lift Mama Gloria with my heart shrinking. I looked at Jasmine and saw in her empty eyes the remains of her broken dreams. I leaned toward her again and whispered with a cold voice full of bitterness, "You see, this is the price of stealing another woman's husband. The price of those luxury bags is very high. Not only has he stolen your child, but also your future as a mother. Do you still want to protect him?" Jasmine turned her head and looked at me. Her lips moved and in her eyes shone a deep hatred. I left the hospital with my soul in suspense and drove to the place I had agreed upon with Sarah. It was a discreet coffee shop in a quiet alley, elegantly decorated and most importantly equipped with a security camera system that recorded every corner clearly. I chose a table in a corner from where I could see the entrance without losing privacy. I stirred my orange juice, trying to calm my mind before the storm that was approaching. At the agreed time, Sarah appeared. She entered with the sophisticated air of a successful woman. She wore a wine-colored silk dress that showed her figure, a designer bag, and sunglasses covering half her face. She inspected the place and stopped upon seeing me. A half-smile of contempt was drawn on her lips. She walked over, sat in front of me with arrogance, and took off her glasses, revealing eyes sharp and heavily made up with care. "Hello, Maya," she said with a sweet but sharp voice. I did not expect the model wife to summon her husband's ex to a place like this. "What are you looking for me for?" "Need advice on how to keep a man, although it is curious how you keep him so bored that he has to come vent to me." Her words were a deliberate provocation, an attempt to hurt me to see my reaction. In another time perhaps I would have been enraged or burst into tears, but the Maya of today had suffered too much to let cheap jabs affect her. I looked at her calmly and smiled slightly. Sarah, I have not called you to make a scene of jealousy or fight for a cheating man. A man like Marcus, I gift him to you if you want him. I am here to save you from an imminent disaster before you become a criminal. Sarah let out a laugh that echoed in the silence of the shop. You save me. That is a joke. What do you need to save me from? I have money, a career, freedom. Worry about yourself. Without arguing, I took out my phone and opened the photo the detective had obtained from the security camera. I slid it across the table with my voice hardened. Look closely at this. The day before yesterday afternoon, in an alley near Kevin's office, you met with him. The little package wrapped in newspaper you gave him. What was in it? Vitamins or misoprostol? Sarah's smile vanished instantly. She picked up the phone and stared at the photo with trembling hands. Her face changed color, and not even the thick layer of makeup could hide the panic in her eyes. The cigarette she was about to light fell onto the table. She looked up with her voice breaking, having lost all confidence. Where did you get this? I was just giving Kevin some documents. Do not accuse me falsely. I looked her directly in the eyes. Documents that need to be wrapped in newspaper and delivered secretly. Sarah, I know you are a pharmacist. You know better than anyone the regulations on restricted drugs. The police are not stupid. As soon as they trace the origin of that batch, do you think you will be able to escape? Sarah sank into her seat. Her initial arrogance had vanished, leaving only a terrified woman on the edge of the abyss. She knew I had her. It was time to deliver the final blow. I leaned back in my chair and lowered my voice to a tone that was both a threat and an offer. Sarah, do you think Marcus will protect you? This morning he ordered Kevin to falsify evidence to blame Jasmine. If the police get to him, what do you think he will declare? He will say that you, jealous and spurned, tricked him into buying poison to hurt his wife. Sarah shuddered with her eyes wide with horror. She knew Marcus's selfish nature too well. I continued my psychological attack. You have money, beauty, a brilliant future. Do you want to exchange all that for a sentence for complicity in attempted murder? How much did Marcus promise you? 50,000. 100,000. Do you think that money will buy your freedom or dignity when you get out of jail with a criminal record? Every question was a hammer blow to her mind. She covered her face and broke down crying, with her shoulders shaking with sobs. Her facade had collapsed, exposing her weakness and late regret. I do not want to go to jail, she sobbed. I just thought it was a normal abortion pill. Marcus told me his wife, meaning you, was pregnant by another man and he wanted to get rid of the baby to get a divorce. I just wanted to help him and make some money. I smiled bitterly. For them, a child's life was nothing more than a means to an end. I leaned toward her. Now is not the time to cry. You only have one way out. Give me the proof that Marcus ordered it, the messages, the recordings of the calls. I will hand it to the police and ensure they understand you were deceived and used. You will become a witness, receive leniency, and have a chance to start over. Either you go to jail with Marcus or you save yourself. You choose. Sarah looked up, debating between fear and fragile hope. She bit her lip until it bled in an internal struggle that seemed to last an eternity. Finally, the instinct for survival won. She opened her designer bag, took out a small silver flash drive, and pushed it toward me as if it were burning coal. Here, everything is here, she said with a hoarse voice. Recordings of his calls, asking for the drug messages with the deposit transfer, even his promises that he would leave you to come back to me. Take it, please. Do not let me go to jail. I grabbed the flash drive and squeezed it in my hand. It was cold, but it contained enough fire to burn down Marcus's career and life. I stood up and looked at Sarah one last time with a mix of pity and warning. You chose well. Keep your mouth shut and wait to hear from me. And do not you even think about warning Marcus, or you will lose your last chance. The small flash drive in my hand weighed a ton. I knew it did not just contain data but the death sentence of my marriage. I did not dare go home or stay at the office. So I drove to a friend detective's office, a place with the best soundproofing, to face the truth. The room was dark, only lit by the bluish light of the computer monitor. The hum of the fan made me nervous. Inserting the flash drive, my hand shook so much I failed twice. A folder appeared with audio files and screenshots of messages meticulously organized by date by Sarah. It was evident she had also prepared in case Marcus betrayed her. I clicked on the most recent recording from 3 days ago. My husband's voice, familiar and chilling, sounded through the speakers. It sounded cold and authoritative, very different from his usual calm tone. "Sarah, see what you can find. I need something strong, preferably colorless and odorless to mix with food. My wife is nauseous. I want it to look like a spontaneous miscarriage clean so I can kick her out of the house without splitting the assets. That pregnancy is an obstacle. Understand?" Every word was like a poisoned needle stabbing my ears and piercing my heart. I covered my mouth to keep from sobbing while hot tears rolled down my cheeks and fell onto my freezing hands. So the original target of those pancakes was me and the baby growing inside me. He did not want to take care of me. He wanted to kill his own child just to protect the wealth he wanted to hoard. That Jasmine ate, it was an accident, an irony of fate that saved my life and my baby's. Then I listened to the recording of the call between Marcus and Sarah after Jasmine was hospitalized. Marcus's voice was full of panic and cruelty. "Shut your mouth and do not say stupid things. Blame it all on Jasmine. Say she bought the medicine herself. I will handle the police. If you think about saying anything about me, you will regret it. Remember, if I go down, you will not live peacefully either." The blatant threat and complete lack of responsibility produced deep disgust in me. The man I loved, with whom I shared my life for 3 years, was a demon disguised as a human willing to sacrifice his mistress and an old friend to save his position and fake honor. He copied all data to 3 different devices. I sent a copy to a secret email, another to my lawyer, and kept the original in my purse. I stared at the dark computer screen, put my hand on my belly, and whispered to my baby, "Sweetheart, forgive me for choosing your father poorly. But do not worry. I will not let anyone hurt you ever again. Tomorrow I will make the guilty pay for every one of our tears." My pain transformed into a cold, hard hatred. I knew there was no turning back, and I did not want there to be. At the company, tension was thick in the air. Employees walked on tiptoes, whispering about the scandal. Sitting in my office, my eyes were fixed on the computer screen showing images from a hidden security camera Rebecca had installed in the accounting department. Kevin was there, pacing like a caged animal with his shirt soaked in sweat. He was trying to access the accounting system to erase the traces of money transfers. He knew the financial crimes unit could arrive at any moment, and those transfers to Sarah's account and his shell company would be proof he could not deny. However, Kevin did not know that Rebecca and my team of trusted technology experts had taken control of the system the night before. Every attempt to delete data was blocked, and the system saved a backup and sent me an alert. I saw the desperation on Kevin's face when the screen showed "access denied" in red letters. He punched the keyboard, pulled his hair, and called someone on the phone. I put on my headphones and activated the hidden microphone I had installed under Marcus's desk months ago when I started suspecting his loyalty. Kevin's voice sounded trembling and scared. "Marcus, I am lost. The system will not let me delete the data. Looks like someone locked my access. What do I do? If the police check the books, I am finished." On the other end, Marcus's voice roared like a wounded beast. "Useless. I told you to do it carefully. Now listen to me. Find a way to blame Jasmine. Falsify evidence. Create fake emails saying she suffered severe depression and wanted to kill herself. You have to make people believe she was crazy. Understand? But Marcus, she just lost her child. Doing that would be very cruel," Kevin protested weakly. Marcus let out a frozen laugh that made me shudder. "Cruelty or jail? Choose. If you do not do it, I assure you, you will end up in prison next to Sarah. Move now." The call ended, leaving a terrifying silence. Kevin collapsed in his chair, covering his face with his hands. His shoulders shook. I took off the headphones, feeling absolute contempt. Even at the last moment, Marcus showed no regret. He kept trying to step on others' pain to save himself, wanting to turn Jasmine, the victim of his betrayal, into a suicidal madwoman. The news that Marcus and Kevin were spreading the rumor that Jasmine had tried to kill herself out of depression spread quickly through the company, and of course reached Mama Gloria's ears. The humble woman from the country who had spent her life working the land transformed into a lioness defending her cub. She burst into the company lobby at lunch hour when it was full of people. She wore her worn clothes and old sneakers, but her face reflected uncontainable fury. Crying and shouting with a voice broken by pain, she clamored, "Where is that wretched director? Come out here. You deceived my daughter, ruined her life, and now accuse her of wanting to kill herself. God sees everything and your punishment is coming." The security guards tried to stop her, but no one dared be rough with an old woman suffering like that. The crowd gathered, whispering and recording with their phones. Marcus had no choice but to come out. He stepped out of his private elevator, frowning, attempting to maintain a fake calm. He approached Mama Gloria and said in a low, threatening voice, "Ma'am, please calm down. Let us talk in my office. Do not make a scene here." Mama Gloria looked at him with bloodshot eyes and pointed her finger at him. "I am not going nowhere. Whatever you got to say it here so everyone can hear. You say my daughter wanted to kill herself. My child loves life. She was sending me money to fix up the house. Why would she want to die? It was you hypocrite, who drove her to this." Marcus turned pale and signaled Kevin to bring a thick envelope. He shoved it into Mama Gloria's hand and whispered, "Here is $5,000. Take it for your expenses and take her back to the country. Do not make things harder for me. I am a victim here too." From the upper level I witnessed the whole scene with a shrinking heart. $5,000. Was that the price of dignity, health, and the future of a young woman? Mama Gloria opened the envelope. Seeing the bills, she let out a bitter laugh and suddenly threw them in Marcus's face. The bills flew through the air like dry leaves. "I am poor, but I am not selling my daughter's blood," she screamed with a wail that silenced the entire lobby. "Your money is dirty. I am going to report you. I will report you to the end, even if I have to sell my house to give my daughter her honor back." Marcus stood paralyzed in the rain of money, red with humiliation and rage. The crowd started pointing at him, casting looks of contempt. In that moment I knew Marcus had lost. He could buy many things with money, but not the pride of a mother who loves her child. The image of those bills falling would be an indelible stain on his life. After the scandal at the company, I went home at dusk. The enormous house was dark, cold as a tomb. I found Marcus in the living room, sitting on the sofa with a glass of whiskey in hand, staring into the void. Seeing me arrive, he did not lift his head. "You are back," he said with a hoarse voice. "Quite a show today at the office. You must be satisfied seeing me humiliated by an old countrywoman in front of all the employees." I turned on the light. His face was gaunt and pale. I left my purse on the table and responded calmly, "I am not satisfied. I am sad. Sad that you let things go this far. Why did you give her money? That is like admitting your guilt." Marcus let out a bitter laugh and downed the whiskey in one gulp. "What do you know? In this world, what is not fixed with money is fixed with a lot of money. That old woman is stupid, that is all." He went to the kitchen and returned with a glass of warm milk. He placed it in front of me and his voice became strangely soft. "Forget the office. Drink this. This will be good for you. I have noticed you looking very thin lately. I worry about you. It is imported milk. Very good for pregnant women. Well, for women." The word pregnant froze my heart. Was he testing me or trying to poison me again? I looked at the steaming glass of milk as if it were a cup of venom. I picked it up, feeling the heat in my hands, and looked him directly in the eyes. "Marcus, remember the pancakes the other day? You also said they were to take care of me, and Jasmine almost died. This glass of milk, are you sure it only has milk?" His face changed. The smile vanished. He stepped back with a wavering gaze. What are you saying? You suspect me. I am your husband." I smiled bitterly, stood up, and walked with the glass toward a potted plant in the corner of the room. Slowly I poured all the milk into the soil under Marcus's stunned gaze. "I do not suspect you," I said with an icy voice. "I just fear it might agree with me as badly as it did Jasmine. Plant needs water too. Let us see if it is still alive tomorrow." The sound of the glass hitting the table was dry and loud. Marcus stared at me. In his eyes there was no longer falseness but pure terror. He knew. He knew I knew everything. The charade of the happy marriage was over. That would be the longest night of our lives because at dawn the real storm would unleash and sweep away the remains of our rotten marriage. The next morning I woke up earlier than usual and dressed with care in front of the mirror. Today was not just a shareholders' meeting. It was a funeral. The funeral of my 3-year marriage and the farewell to the traitors in my life. Entering the company, silence was almost absolute. Everyone seemed to feel the storm approaching. I went directly to the large boardroom where the shareholders and the board of directors were already gathered. Marcus presided over the table. His gray suit seemed too big for him and dark circles betrayed his anxiety, though he tried to hide it by tapping a pen rhythmically on the table. Seeing me enter, his gaze flashed with suspicion, but he quickly looked away. He cleared his throat and signaled Kevin to start the meeting. The main topic was the approval of an eco-resort project, a project Marcus had presented as a golden opportunity, but which I knew was a cover to move funds from the company to his shell companies and empty the accounts before our divorce. Kevin presented the project with a trembling voice, sweating despite the air conditioning. Shareholders whispered. Some frowned at the implausible figures. When the time came to vote, Marcus stood up, trying to sound firm. "Gentlemen, this is a unique opportunity. I propose you trust the vision of this board and approve the resolution." Just as he was about to raise his hand to vote, I stood up slowly. The sound of my chair scraping the floor caught everyone's attention. I looked at Marcus steadily and said with a calm but icy voice, "One moment, Mr. CEO, fellow shareholders, before talking about how to spend the company's money, I think we should talk about the moral integrity and legal capacity of the person managing it." Marcus slammed the table. "Maya, this is a strategic meeting, not a schoolyard to air your personal problems." I did not flinch. "Marcus, having an affair and a child outside of marriage is a personal matter, but using company money to maintain your mistress, creating shell companies to launder capital, and what is gravest, buying illegal substances to harm others, that is a legal matter that concerns the survival of this company. The shareholders present here have the right to know if their money is in the hands of a CEO or an alleged criminal." The room erupted in a murmur of astonishment. Marcus, pale, pointed at me, trembling, unable to form words. Before he could react, I signaled Rebecca to connect my laptop to the projector. The big screen behind Marcus lit up. First, the bank statements showing transfers to Jasmine's accounts and Kevin's company. Figures of hundreds of thousands of dollars highlighted in red. Then the screenshots of messages between Marcus and Kevin. The shareholders, even those who supported him before, shook their heads with looks of disappointment and anger. "This is just preliminary proof of embezzlement," I said. "And the most terrible part is yet to come." I clicked on the audio file Sarah had given me. The room fell into deep silence. Marcus's unmistakable voice resonated, cruel and cold. "I want it to look like a spontaneous miscarriage. Clean. That pregnancy is an obstacle. Get me something strong." Every word was like an echo from hell. Some female shareholders covered their mouths, horrified. Marcus, crazed, tried to rip the projector cable out, screaming it was a setup. "Turn it off. It is fake." This woman manipulated my voice. But Rebecca and 2 security guards I had prepared stopped him. Marcus struggled, desperate and pathetic. He turned toward Kevin, looking for help, but Kevin had hidden under the table, shaking. I approached Marcus. "You say it is fake. And what about the toxicological analysis of the pancakes you prepared with your own hands and the statement from Sarah, your ex, whom you used to get the drug? No one set a trap for you, Marcus. Your own greed and evil dug your grave." I turned to the shareholders. "Gentlemen, I have all the evidence and witnesses. I have already sent copies to the police. I propose the immediate removal of Mr. Marcus as CEO to facilitate the investigation and protect the reputation of this company." A timid applause started and quickly turned into an ovation. Marcus slid down the wall to the floor, defeated. His career, his honor, everything had collapsed in a single morning. Just as the applause ceased, the doors to the room swung open. 2 officers from the police department entered, followed by Sarah, face hidden behind sunglasses, and my lawyer. Sarah's appearance was the final blow. Marcus looked at her, incredulous. Sarah, what are you doing here? An officer approached Marcus and said with a firm voice, Marcus Jenkins, you are under arrest for alleged assault and trafficking of harmful pharmaceutical substances. Meanwhile, another officer headed toward Kevin, who was curled up in a corner. Seeing the police, Kevin broke down crying, seized by panic. I do not know anything. It was Marcus. He forced me to do everything. To falsify the papers to get rid of the evidence. I was just following orders. I will confess everything. Please leave me alone. Kevin's quick and cowardly betrayal left Marcus stunned. You traitor, he hissed. But before he could say more, the metallic click of handcuffs silenced his words. The hands that had signed contracts and held my hand were now trapped in cold metal rings. Passing by me, Marcus stopped. Maya, since when were you planning this? Why have you been so cruel? We were husband and wife. I looked at him, feeling nothing but an immense void. I approached and whispered in his ear. Since you brought me those pancakes, since you tried to kill our child. Me. Cruel. Compared to trying to poison your wife and child, sending you to jail is practically an act of mercy. Goodbye, ex-husband. Marcus lowered his head and left the room with a hunched back, alone and pathetic. The door closed, but the echo of his arrest remained in everyone's mind. In the cold interrogation room at the precinct, Marcus, gaunt and suit-wrinkled, faced evidence he could not deny. Sarah and Kevin's statements, toxicological analyses, and audio recordings left no room for doubt. He crumbled, admitting buying the drug to hurt me and keep the assets. However, he insisted Jasmine's case was an accident, that he did not know she was pregnant. I swear I did not know she was pregnant, he sobbed. She told me she was on the pill. It was just a fling. I am not stupid enough to let it have consequences. If I had known, I would have forced her to abort much sooner. His words were so cold and cruel that even the detective frowned. For Marcus, a child's life was nothing more than a problem to be eliminated. The detective slid a report across the table. You say you did not know, but science does not lie. This is the result of the analysis. Confirms 99.99% that it was your biological son. And by the way, it was a boy. Marcus grabbed the paper, trembling, his eyes locked onto the words paternity confirmed. Boy. It was a boy, he murmured before banging his head against the table and letting out a scream of animal pain. He cried, but not out of regret, but for the loss of the male heir he craved so much. His family had always valued boys over girls, and one of the reasons he resented me was because he assumed my baby would be a girl. Behind the one-way mirror, I watched it all, feeling a chill. Even at his lowest moment, he only thought of himself and his backward ideas. Human life, even his own blood, meant nothing to him. Fortunately, that poor child did not have to be born to call a man like him father. I turned around and left, thanking heaven for protecting my daughter. Jasmine was discharged a week later. Doctors told her she had saved her life but could never be a mother. Since her luxury apartment was sealed by the investigation, Mama Gloria had to take her to a damp, narrow rental room on the outskirts. Before they returned to the country, I went to visit them. The smell of mold hit me at the door. In the tiny room, Jasmine sat in a corner with messy hair and empty eyes, a shadow of the elegant woman she was. Mama Gloria was packing old clothes into a cloth bag. Seeing me, she wiped her tears. Mrs. Maya, we are leaving. We do not want to bother you anymore. My daughter knows she did wrong. I looked at that woman, bent by the weight of life, and felt deep pity. A lifetime of sacrifices so her daughter would succeed. And the only thing she received in return was a daughter broken physically and spiritually. I left a thick envelope on a plastic table. Mama Gloria refused to take it. No, please. That you did not report her is already a blessing. This money weighs too much. I took her hands and put it in her palm. Take it, please. It is not charity. It is her last paycheck plus some help for the trip and medicines. Take care of her. Encourage her to start over. She has already paid a very high price for her mistake. Mama Gloria broke down crying. How wretched I am. Why has my daughter had such bad luck? She let herself be fooled by a married man, and now she is destroyed. How am I going to look the neighbors in the face? Jasmine also started sobbing in her corner without daring to look at me. Regret and shame consumed her. "Jasmine," I said with a serious but calm voice. "You lost a child, and the ability to be a mother is the greatest pain for a woman. But let this serve as a lesson. Never build your happiness on the pain of others. And never believe beauty can buy lasting happiness. Live with dignity to honor your mother. Do not let her cry for you again." Taxi was waiting for them. Mama Gloria helped Jasmine out. Jasmine looked at the city one last time with eyes full of tears. The place that was once her promised land was now the setting of her worst nightmare. I watched them drive away, hoping the peace of the country would heal her wounds, though I knew the scars would remain forever. After Marcus's arrest, the company was plunged into chaos. Employees were disoriented, partners suspicious, and stocks in freefall. As the majority shareholder and holder of key evidence, the board elected me interim CEO. My first measure was to fire Marcus and Kevin's entire team. I wanted to clean the company of corruption and lead it with transparency and honesty. I organized a press conference, apologized publicly, and committed to rebuilding the company. My sincerity and determination managed to restore part of the market's confidence. Seeing the financial charts starting to recover, I sighed relieved and whispered to my baby, "We did it, sweetheart. Your grandfather's legacy is safe." But the calm did not last long. That afternoon, my mother-in-law, Mrs. Grace, burst into my office, fuming, dressed in silks and jewelry. Her face was red with anger. "Viper, evil woman. You put my son in jail to keep everything. My son is a good man. He is incapable of killing anyone. You set a trap for him." Calmly, I asked my secretary to leave and close the door. I looked at the woman I once called mother, now turned into a blind and cruel mother-in-law. I offered her a glass of water. Down. You say your son is a good man, good enough to buy poison to kill his own grandchild." Mrs. Grace was left speechless but insisted. "Do not slander him. He did not know the other one was pregnant. It was a mistake. Men are like that. As his wife, you should have been more understanding, not put him in jail. You have no heart." Her brazenness overwhelmed me. I grabbed my tablet and showed her the video of Marcus's confession and the recordings with Sarah. I hit play. Her son's voice resonated, clear and cruel. "I want it to look like a spontaneous miscarriage. That pregnancy is an obstacle." As she listened, Mrs. Grace's face decomposed. She saw her perfect son revealed as a monster. When the video ended, she collapsed on the sofa, trembling. She could not believe the son she bragged about so much was capable of such terrible things. "Do you see now?" I said, voice softer but firm. "Those pancakes were for me. If I had eaten them, the grandchild I carry in my womb would not be here anymore." Not only did he want to kill his secretary's child, but ours too. "Your grandchild. Do you still want to defend him?" Mrs. Grace looked at my belly and then at me. The truth was too brutal. She covered her mouth and broke down, crying a cry of shame and regret. She stood up, wobbling, and left without daring to look at me. I saw her hunched back and felt pity. She was also a mother, but her blind love had contributed to this tragedy. A week later, I received a summons from my lawyer to visit Marcus in detention and finalize the divorce. With a lawsuit in hand, I crossed the cold doors of the jail. The air smelled of confinement and dampness. They took me to the visiting room, and I sat in front of a thick glass. Shortly after, they brought Marcus. I barely recognized him. In just a few weeks he had aged 10 years. Shaved head, sunken face, unkempt beard. His eyes, once bright, were now dull and full of fear. He wore a prisoner uniform that was too big. Seeing me, a glimmer of hope shone in his gaze. He leaned toward the intercom with a trembling voice. "Maya, did you come to see me? I knew you still love me. Drop the charges, please. I made a mistake. I swear I will change. Think of our 3 years together. Think of our child. A boy needs his father." I looked at him with a calm heart. His pleas, which before would have moved me, now seemed ridiculous. He used our son as a shield. The same son he tried to kill. I slid the divorce papers and a pen through the slot. "The love ended the day you tried to poison me. And my son does not need a father who tried to kill his mother. You do not deserve to be a father. Marcus grabbed the paper trembling. He looked at the words divorce decree and tears fell on the sheet. Maya, please. I do not want to lose everything. I will start from scratch. I will make it up to you. Do not be so cruel. I interrupted him with a firm voice. Stop acting. You are not crying out of regret but for the life of luxury you lost. Sign now or I will use the evidence of embezzlement. Then it will not be 12 years but 20. Hearing that he stopped crying, he knew I was not joking. He grabbed the pen and signed with handwriting shaky and crooked like his own life. Picked up the paper. Our marriage had ended with a signature in a cold visiting room. I stood up. Rehabilitate yourself. I hope when you get out you learn to be a decent person. Goodbye forever. I turned around, leaving behind his weak and desperate screams. The iron door closed with a dull thud, separating two worlds, two destinies. I stepped out into the sunlight, blinding and bright. Finally I was free. The trial was quick thanks to the solid evidence. Sarah, as a cooperating witness, received a 2-year suspended prison sentence, but the price was high. Her pharmacist license was revoked forever and she was fired from her job. From a life of success and luxury she went to unemployment and shame. She had to sell her apartment and car to pay the fines. One night I received a long message from her full of apologies and regrets. I read it without emotion and deleted it. Her regret meant nothing to me. I chose to forget her like a speck of dust that irritates your eye and then disappears. My mother-in-law, Mrs. Grace, did not give up. She started slandering me, saying I was a woman who had stolen everything from her son. I ignored her. One day her lawyer came to my house demanding half my assets. I calmly reminded him of the prenuptial agreement Marcus had signed and the evidence of his embezzlement. I warned him if he kept harassing me I would sue for defamation. The lawyer left with his tail between his legs. 6 months later, on a night of torrential rain, I went into labor. At the hospital, while pain tore through me, I remembered that other day in that same hallway. That day was of terror and death. Today was of hope and life. After a difficult labor, my baby's cry filled the room. Congratulations, it is a girl 7 pounds even and she is beautiful, the midwife said. They put her on my chest. Tears of happiness welled up in my eyes. My daughter was here safe and sound. I named her Hope, a simple name that held all my wishes for her. Life of peace. A thought shuddered through me. If that morning had not been for the nausea, this sacred moment would never have existed. Fate, sometimes cruel, sometimes miraculous, had taken a life to save another. The day of the sentencing, I did not go to court. I watched the news at home with Hope in my arms. Marcus was sentenced to 12 years in prison. On the screen he looked like a broken man. I felt nothing seeing him. Neither joy nor pity, just immense relief. My past closed with the judge's gavel. 2 years later the company under my direction was flourishing. I was in my office on the 20th floor looking at the city. Hope turned into a 2-year-old whirlwind, ran into my arms. She was my engine, the cure for all my wounds. My phone rang. It was a message from Daniel, a kind and respectful business partner who knew my story. Hi Maya. Daniel here. Do you and Hope feel like a picnic this weekend? I know a beautiful spot in the mountains. I read the message and smiled. I looked at my daughter playing happily. Happiness is not a destination but a journey. I had suffered but I had not closed my heart because of it. I replied, "Thanks, Daniel. We would love to." I sent the message and hugged Hope. The sky was an intense blue, cloudless. The past had faded, giving way to the warm light of the present. After the storm, the sun always comes out. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Thank you so much for your sweet support. I am looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There is so much more on my channel. Do not forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.